everybody. My name is Kevin Hoyt, and I'm an evangelist with Adobe. Technically, actually, I'm a group manager at Adobe. I run a team of evangelists who are from Bucharest, Seattle, and they're just great.
It's forward.
Yeah. Good.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
All right. So I run a team of evangelists from Bucharest, Seattle, and they're a great team to work with. We're actually a fairly small team. On my team specifically, we're about 6 people large. So we have, if you're not familiar with Adobe overall, Adobe has roughly 70, 80 different products. It's a $4 billion company, 9,000 people. If you do the math, it's roughly a little over $400,000 revenue per person. It's a really solid number now. But if you think about it in terms of 70 plus products, and my team has 6 evangelists, and there are another, around the world, there are another dozen or so for 70 products, right? Just a vast swath of technology there for us to play with. So we're very busy. And this new mobile landscape has kept us even more so because it is changing even more at a more rapid pace. If you have an Android device, Android Q2 device, you go out to the Android market on your device and search for Hoyt. You'll find an application called Virus. Hoyt is the last name over there on the edge. Kevin Hoyt, H-O-Y-T. Find an application called Virus. Don't worry, it's not actually a virus. You can install it. We'll play with that a little bit later, but it's called Virus because the idea is a bunch of germs. When you hand on your devices, you guys start thinking about who's touching it, what they've been touching, and so we made a little game, made a little kind of interactive piece called Virus, and we'll kind of explore that a little bit later on. So, from Adobe's perspective, in the mobile world, there are kind of 3 core trends that we're tracking. The first one is the proliferation of various devices. So, as an example, this is a Nexus 1, and it's an Android device, and it has it goes 480 by 800 on this particular display. This is a Droid X, and it presents already, it's an Android device as well, but already no shortage of challenges because it's 480 by 854. So 800, 854, same operating system but different screen resolution. That presents a real challenge already right out of the box. I'm trying to build an application, specifically one designed for a screen resolution. You're going to be in the real world or very. Can you get kind of some fun and interesting challenges like this is an iPod Touch, it's the most recent iPod Touch. Roughly the same screen size, right? But turns out that this is actually got a pixel density much, much higher. It is 640 by 960. So all those pixels are packed in there. And so if you try to design something for this guy and then run it on this guy, you're going to get a completely different display. All right? And that didn't used to be a problem in the iOS world until they came up with the Retina display, right? It used to be 320 by 640, something along those lines. And those are the smartphone form factors. Those are the ones we put in our pockets. But of course, now it's getting more complicated because we're moving into the tablet form factors. So something like this. This is a Galaxy Tab. This is the first generation. They now have some newer versions of this coming to market. But this is a 7-inch form factor. Essentially, it's 1024 by some odd, it's 764-ish. Kind of your traditional desktop display. But obviously, this is much smaller than your desktop. So there's a lot more pixels to play with there. So that presents a whole other form factor for us to play with. And then, of course, you get into the iOS tablets like an iPad. I heard yesterday that HP is bringing their tablet to market in July. There's also this guy. This is a PlayBook. Not only is the PlayBook's an interesting device because not only is it different from the screen resolution, but it also has entirely different ways you work with it. So for example, I know this is hard to see in the back, but you'll get the general ideas I move. But the specific content on the screen isn't as interesting as the different gestures. But historically, you think of a tablet, you touch on the tablet, and you interact with what you want to. But in the case of the PlayBook, if you want a menu, you can pull down. In this case, there is none. If you want to see what the other applications are, you pull up. And that's from the bevel onto the main display itself. If you want to go to settings, depending on what state you're at, you can come in from the corners. And so now all of a sudden, instead of just like touch pen type of gestures, you have a whole different variety of gestures you have to consider. And in fact, in this guy, the UX of this guy is designed so that the menu is a pull down from the top. So generally speaking, in your applications, the menu isn't actually visible, which is a direct contrast to something like this, where on the screen at the top is that title bar, so essentially every screen has a menu already affixed to it. Totally different dynamics there. So that's the first one, a whole new proliferation of devices. This is really just the tip of the iceberg. We're expecting something in the range of another dozen different Android tablets to hit market by the end of the year, ranging in form factor from single screen to dual screen collapsible, so more like a book form factor, on and on and on. So lots of different devices. And interestingly enough, that presents a really unique and complex challenge if you're trying to deliver content to those devices, right? Resolution, screen sizes, operating systems. If you're going to develop for Android, typically you're going to develop with Java. If you're going to develop for iOS, you're going to develop with Objective-C. If you're going to develop for the PlayBook, you can develop with Adobe technologies, or you can develop also with a subset of Java, or you can develop straight to the chip at the C level. So a couple different varieties there. So you're looking at 3 different code bases to hit 3 different devices. Of course, WebOS, an HP tablet coming to market presents yet another different option. It just is getting more and more complicated. And then we're starting to see the emergence of internet-connected televisions, which we expect to happen more profoundly over the next, say, 4 years. But that's a whole different display in its entirety because the pixel density is not actually, generally speaking, that high. Or if you think about it, 1080p means 1080 pixels up and down. So this display, as an example, all right, let's just, so this screen is 768. So if you have a 720 HD TV, it's actually smaller than this screen as you see here, right? So TVs represent a kind of a desktop-ish form factor, but they're 10 feet away, and they have toggle buttons to work with. So it's an entirely different form factor yet again, and that is also, again, as expected to be becoming more and more common in the next few years. So what now? What now? Well, this is the area that Adobe really wants to help, because if you think about it, a lot of the companies investing in their own tablets and building their own operating systems have a specific gain in mind. They have a specific objective, right? In the case of Adobe, we're not one of those tablet manufacturers. Our job, our technology historically has always been about enabling developers and creatives to bring content to whatever screen they want to bring it to. And we've been surprised by some of those screens in the past, actually. And that's really where we intend to kind of make our movement forward as well. And so in the realm of the ever-growing realm of how Adobe can help you bring your applications and your content to all these different screens, there are 2 main roads. The first road is one based on web standards. And I opened up with the different trends involved. First trend was just the proliferation of different devices. The second trend would be the evolution of web standards. So this is an exciting time to be developing with web standards. If you've all heard about the HTML5, right, the kind of buzzword that captures everything that's going on in the web standards world, there's a lot of really interesting specifications coming out of there, being implemented very rapidly in browsers, although it tends to be somewhat fragmented. So for example, these guys are both WebKit, but they have entirely different touch interfaces from a JavaScript perspective. While those standards are moving forward, they are still very much specifications. They're not formalized, finalized standards. Not everybody agrees on them, and not everybody implements it the same way. But nonetheless, it's an exciting time to see all the new technologies and different feature ideas coming out of those specification proposals. So Adobe's a big fan of HTML. We've had HTML products in our tool set for a long time. So if you're going to go down this particular path of building content, then we want to help you in that respect. So this is Dreamweaver. Specifically, this is Dreamweaver CS 5.5. Dreamweaver CS 5.5 is the latest release. It's actually a dot release. It's our first ever dot release. Never had a dot release in Creative Suite before. And so we have CS 5.5, and the whole purpose of 5.5 is, by and large, to focus on mobile. So it doesn't matter what product you buy from the Creative Suite line that has the 5.5. Not all the products got revved, by the way. That has the 5.5 and is focused on mobile. Dreamweaver CS 5.5 focused on mobile. Now let me give you an example of that, how that can be. Now, if you're a developer in the room, before I get started, I should call out that you probably think of Dreamweaver as a WYSIWYG tool. Doesn't really help you as a developer. Doesn't really show you what you need. And I would suggest that you take a second look, and that's part of the intention here is to show you exactly what you can get from Dreamweaver if you choose to do web standards development. So I have a site here, and I'm just going to go ahead and go to File, New, and then there's in Dreamweaver's new dialog, there's blank pages, blank templates, and all kinds of different options you can do there. We include a couple different samples. One of them is mobile starters, and in this case, I can go ahead and select to use jQuery mobile from a CDN. That is essentially pulling the scripts from various CDNs so that we don't have to keep it on our own servers or keep current, things like that. Get the most fast access to those loads and so on. I can choose to use jQuery mobile, that is have all the scripts as part of the site itself. And I can also choose to do jQuery mobile for PhoneGap. Now if you haven't heard about PhoneGap's an interesting project. Essentially lets you take your web development technologies out of the browser and into applications so that you can deploy them in the market, in any market. And that's actually one of the things that PhoneGap does really good, is a broad reach of different markets you can deploy to. So in this case, I'm interested primarily in applications, but know that if you want to do jQuery mobile in the browser, you can do that as well. I'm going to go with the PhoneGap here and just say create. So it creates a project for me. Let me go over my code view. It creates a project for me, and you may look at that right off the bat and be like, whoop, see there it is, Dreamweaver's throwing up again. So the reason, because WYSIWYG tools, they build bad code, right? So that looks like an example of bad code. The reason it looks like that is because I haven't saved anything yet. It doesn't know where anything else is, so it puts absolute paths. If I save this, it'll copy over the assets, shorten the file directories, and we're off to the races. So, so we've got a basic PhoneGap application. Might want to know what this application does. So let's go to design view, right? So where we can see the application in action. You say, wait a minute, that doesn't look anything like a really cool jQuery mobile application. You're right, it doesn't. Because this is design view. This is a view that is being delivered to you to look at prior to all the runtime CSS, runtime JavaScript being applied. So how do you see it with runtime JavaScript and CSS applied? Well, you Alt-tab over to the browser, check it out. So it turns out, in Dreamweaver CS5, we actually added a live view. And we turn on that live view button, we actually see the application as it would be rendered. And specifically, this is actually a captive WebKit. In the past, it's been a Dreamweaver kind of custom browser. This is actually a captive WebKit. It includes all the things you would normally expect from WebKit, including SVG and all the latest and greatest specifications. And so we can come in here and we can actually start interacting with the content and seeing how things behave. So right off the bat, we get a real cool feel. We essentially built a basic application and been able to see how that looks. Now in this case, I'm actually going to the main page here. I'm going to go ahead and take off that footer off the main one. I don't need, for this example, anything else than that first page. So I'm going to chop off the rest of the pages. We'll call this detail. Don't want a footer on that. Now, of course, I can do this visually as well, but I chose to do it via code. I'll tell you what, let's give this guy an ID. So that's an unordered list, and I'm going to take off the list items. And so if we want to see what this guy looks like, we can come over here. Obviously, this is a 1024 screen, so it's a little hard to kind of get the full flavor for what's going on here. Let's go ahead and refresh it. So page one with nothing in it. We've removed all the different semantic HTML that represents the pages. Something you should know about Dreamweaver CS5.5 is that it actually has a sizing guideline for you here. So in this case, let me go full design view. So say I want to test this on an iPhone, original iPhone. That would be 320 by 480, 320 by 480. So go ahead and select that. So that's what it would look like on a regular iPhone or first gen. Something a little more current would look something like this. So you can kind of play with this, and you can actually go in here and edit the sizes and put your own sizes in there to see what that page will look like on that particular given device. Right now.